everybody. Welcome to the first game in our indie game series. I wanted to get this started because I figured if I delayed it or made up an excuse, I wouldn't do it. So the first game I'm going to look at is Katana, which is a feudal warfare game, again by Stephen Lawrence. So I'm actually thinking of doing a video on war game designers that you should know but you've never heard of, and Stephen Lawrence is at the top of that list. So I think so far we've seen that he did this, he did Vampire Wars, he did War Paint, and so we have a lot of rules out here by Stephen Lawrence, and from what I'm seeing, I really like his rules. Now Katana, from what I've been able to tell from reading it, is mostly a unit game. So this is mostly designed for small to medium-sized battles with units of samurai, ashigaru, and ronin, and peasants, and so forth. But there is a separate section of the rules toward the back called Arrow Cutter that deals with melee actions, or not melee, but individual skirmish actions. And so that is what we are going to be looking at in this game. I have set up a very simple match. This is not a scenario in the book. It's just something that I've done. In this match, there's going to be one samurai, 4 ashigaru who are with him versus 3 ronin. Now, there is a character called a legendary samurai in the game that I'm not going to be using just because it's kind of powerful, and I want to see how a regular samurai compares. Now, I'm thinking these 3 ronin should actually be able to defeat them. The ronin will have D10s. The samurai, I think, has a D12. And all of the ashigaru will be rolling D8s. Now, I will say one of the problems with the rules as far as the way he did this is, in the beginning, he gives a turn sequence and so forth that is really only appropriate toward the mass combat part of the game, the large battles. And he doesn't repeat a lot of that in the arrow cutter section. So he says, oh, well, whatever rules aren't changed, just stick with the rules from the original version. But it doesn't really quite translate. So, for example, there's morale rules in the first part, but he doesn't indicate if you use morale rules in the skirmish game. And basically, the only thing he really clarifies is how cover works, which I won't be using the cover, and how wounding and kills work. Now, I do like something interesting that he does with this game. So, essentially, in the skirmish game, you will be doing a roll-off. And I think I'm actually missing a die. But anyway, you will do a roll-off. So, let's just take a D8 versus a D10. So in this game, you would do a roll-off. Now, this rolled a 7 and a 7, which would obviously be a tied score. Let's see if we can get this in a little bit better. So in this, until we added the modifiers, probably the ronin would win if he's going up against an ashigaru. But the way they do the wound, let's say the ronin had a 7 and they rolled a 3. So the ronin would have beat their score by 4. Now, the first thing you do when you win, you roll a d6, which I don't have right now, which I'm gonna have to go get. But you roll a d6, and if you roll a 1, they're dead outright, which is kind of interesting, okay? But there's also another way you can be killed outright. So let's say the ronin rolled a 10 and then rolled a 9, okay? But the ashigaru rolled an 8. Now, in this situation, the ronin has won the battle. But because the ashigaru rolled his highest number on his die, he would have actually killed the ronin in addition to whatever the ronin does to him. So I think that's kind of interesting because it keeps you from being in a situation where, you know, small guys can almost never kill lesser opponents. Now, if you get to the legendary samurai, which we're not using, that can occur. And I'm not sure if this rule still applies if you're fighting a legendary samurai. But basically, the rules for legendary samurai is they can never die by wounds. So I mean, you have to kill them outright, which I'm assuming then that would mean you would have to, you know, get your maximum die roll or whatever. I'm not sure. They do suffer modifiers, but they cannot be killed by wounds. So I'm going to play that out probably next time just to see how it works. Now, if you are not killed outright on that D6 roll, then the next thing is you would roll on this hit location table. So you would have light wounds, leg wounds, arm wounds, and so forth. And all of them would have some type of modifier. So that kind of gives you an initial outlook of the game, just so you know what we're rolling. I'm going to try to roll stuff on camera so you guys can see it. In this scenario, basically, we have a samurai and his small retinue of Ashigaru have heard that some dishonorable Ronin have entered into their territory, and so the samurai has come out to meet them. Now, normally in this game, there is a hierarchy, meaning that Ashigaru will usually not choose to go up against Ronin or Samurai. Ronin or Samurai will usually not choose to fight Ashigaru. They would fight each other. But because that really wouldn't make sense in this scenario for the Samurai to try to fight 3 Ronin by himself, I'm going to assume in this scenario that the Ashigaru are going to fight. Now, under the morale rules, they would, if they were a unit, they would have to make a morale check to attack those Ronin. And I may do that to see, like, okay, are they going to attack them or wait to see if they get attacked? Are they going to be scared or what? Now, another thing that they really don't say in here is how do you determine who goes first? So again, you know, it's kind of, there's a lot of vagaries in these rules where I like the rule set, but I wish he would have maybe turned this over to someone else to kind of write it and go through and kind of clear up those things, because it's either not in here or it's very hard to locate where it is at. I mean, there's a rule about leaders in units, but I'm not sure if that applies just to the mass game or applies to the regular game as well. So then they talk about a daimyo, which is also kind of confusing, where you have a leader as well as a daimyo. So I'm going to kind of fudge that stuff rather than sit here and be bogged down trying to read through the rules and everything. I just want you to give you guys a feel of how this plays. So I'm going to go get my D6 and we'll be back. Okay, we are back. And just for purposes of my gameplay, I'm going to let the samurai and his retinue go first, because I'm going to figure he's the highest ranking character on the board. So, but I am going to make these guys roll and they D8s to see if they will attack the Ronin on their own. So he's basically telling them to go after the Ronin. They need to get is it a 10 or a 9 for the morale? I think Ashigaru, 9 or less for Ashigaru. See if they have any modifiers. They have no losses. Samurai Ronin versus lesser troops. So they are Ronin, so they will have a -2 on their roll. So let's see here. Samurai Ronin versus lesser. Oh no, that's not them. They're not doing that. Peasants versus Ashigaru versus Samurai. So it doesn't say anything about Ashigaru versus Ronin. So they just need less than 9. So we're gonna do this here, 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 and here. So they all are going to go in to attack. Their movement for Ashigaru on foot is a D6 plus 5. Won't really make a difference here, because they have more than enough movement. 1, 2, 3. So he gets around there. 1, 2, 3. He gets around here. And 1, 2. He gets around there, just so he can't get hit by 2 people. So these guys are going to turn and face their opponents. And we are now going to do our roll-offs. So our melee modifier, nobody's being attacked from the rear. I'm going to give them a charge, so all of the Ashigaru will get +1 to their melee rolls. And Let's see. Enemy is above you. Nobody's disordered. Shorter weapons. Obstacles. None of that. So I'm going to roll for... Let's do these two first. And it's a D10 versus a D8. So he has a 2 versus his 8. Oh, that is not good. That is not good. We're going to do this one here. So he has a 9 versus a 7. We'll do this one here. Oh, wait. I've got 2 of the same dice. Matter of fact, I need to move him into contact with this guy, too. So, a D10 on this one. And him. So, he rolled an 8 versus a 1. And then I think I need this guy here. So, I'm going to do his attack and compare it to that roll. Oh, he rolled an 8. Oh, my goodness. They rolled an 8. So, these guys that rolled natural 8s on their quality dice, I think that is an outright kill. I mean, I'm going to check the rules again, but it says, that's what it says here. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Now, maybe that's not in this rule. Maybe that is in the original rules, because this says, in the larger scale game, wound locations are abstracted. Roll a d6 for each hit on the figure. On a 1, the figure is killed outright. Otherwise, roll a d20 on the wound table. So that is what it's saying under the other rules. So let me check the wounds for the mass combat game. Every figure type may take a number of wounds before being killed. Figures fight normally. Ronin take 3 wounds, 4 wounds, and so forth. Let's see here. Melee combat. Quality die for each figure. In addition, if the maximum roll possible on the quality die is rolled naturally, consider the defender to be disarmed. Well, that's on the mass combat. Where did I read that rule that said if the quality die, the maximum number is rolled? Because I definitely want to make sure I get this right. Melee combat. Okay, here it says, unlike the basic rules, an arrow cutter melee is fought using opposed die rolls. The facing considerations remain the same, but each figure involved throws a quality die. After modifiers, any roll which is higher than another roll is considered to have landed a blow. Consult the wound chart, adding 1 for every 2 points over the winning roll in excess of what was needed to hit. Figures other than legendary samurai may only score a hit on the figure they are facing. Ties result in no blow being landed by neither side. A maximum natural roll on the quality die is an automatic kill on the opposing figure, even if his roll beat yours, in which case you'd also take a hit. So he rolled a natural 8, so this guy would be dead. He rolled a natural 8, so this one would be dead. Now, he lost because he rolled a 2, so he does not do any damage to him. He rolled a 9, but he could only strike at this one, which had a 7. So he beat him by 2. Let's see if he rolls a 1. He doesn't roll a 1 on this D6. So then we roll on the a D20. And we're going to add 1 because he beat him by 2. So that is a 6 plus 1 is 7. So he just takes a light wound. He loses an action next turn. And he checks for morale. So we can just check his morale now. Under 9, I think he would be good. So he would have a light wound. That's all he would have. This one actually won his fight here. He beat him by 7. Let's roll the D6. No, this is no outright kill. But he beat him by 7. So that would be a plus 3. Because you get a plus 1 for every 2, which would be 18. Chest wound. Die in D6 turns. Attack has 1 die lower. So this guy has a chest wound. He's going to die in D6 turns, which is 3 turns. His attack has 1 die lower. So That's kind of funny though. Is he going to be able to keep fighting with a chest wound? Just says he dies in D6 turns. Oh, his attack is 1, so his attack would now be a D6. So now looking at that, I really don't think it would be much sense to keep playing. I mean, there's no way this one guy is going to survive having all these guys thrown at him again. So that was very quick. I'm going to reset it up though, because I think one of the things that hurt them was there was a lot of natural 8s on those die rolls, which were like auto kills. So let's reset it up. Okay, so we are back. This time I'm going to put them a little further apart, which will hopefully give the Ronin some chance to to kind of maybe move around a bit and kind of not get double attacked or closed in on. And maybe I should have changed the Ashigaru to peasants, but I'm not going to do that just yet. But I'm going to put them further back. I'm also going to let them move in order of their rank. So the samurai will move first, then all of the Ronin, and then the Ashigaru. Because I think that might have hurt them letting the Ronin get in first and get the charge. And it's I think it's very interesting. It doesn't say who moves first, which is kind of funny. Like, I've never heard of a game where they don't tell you how you determine who moves first. It's just, I don't know. I really don't know. That is kind of very odd that you have a game and they don't tell you who gets to move first. So maybe they put that in, he leaves that in the scenarios. That's just kind of a big omission. And it's a set up. Yeah, this doesn't say. Maybe you have to roll an initiative die. I don't know. He doesn't even say anything about it. So anyway, I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to move them in order. So the first person that would be able to move is the samurai on foot, who can move 1d6 plus 4. So he can move 10 inches. Now, I think he is still going to hold back and not do anything, because I think he feels like he's too good to actually match his blade with theirs until the Ronin have actually killed somebody and proven themselves. So now I'm going to shift the turn to the Ronins. The Ronins also move 1d6 plus 4. So I'm just going to use this one roll for all of them. Let me roll that again. So they can move 8. If they come into contact, they can do that as a charge. I think a charge you get to add 50%. So they could do up to 10. So he could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just run right into this guy. He can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Run right into that guy. And he can go 1, 2, 3, and 4. He's going to try to take on the samurai, because I think he is going to see if he can end this very quickly. Right? Instead of dragging it out, he's going to try to end it very quickly. Now, it doesn't really say if you resolve your attack once you close or once everybody has moved. So it says charge initiation, perform morale checks, move charging units, 1/2 of charge move, roll to spot hitting units. So this again is all with the mass combat. Charging and charge, normal movement phase. So then they move normal fire phase and then the melee phase. Movement is expressed as inches, not required to use your full movement. Figures moving together as a group. Moving or flanking. Foot charges. Ah, man. I think it's kind of sad that the rules have all of these omissions. It's kind of sad. There is a mechanism where apparently if you try to charge, you can take fire. That's why they did it with the half move thing. So I would love to play this again as a mass combat game, which I may do. I just got to break out more of my figures. When opposing units come into base-to-base contact, melee combat occurs. Then it says for melee combat, pair off the figures. Yeah, but apparently I think the melee combat occurs after everyone has moved. So These guys are going to go in at the Ronin. I will do a morale check for them. I think it's 9 or less to see whether they go in or not. Most of them I don't have to do it for. So looks like all of them are good because I don't really think any of them have any modifiers at this point. So this guy is going to move up. I'm going to let this samurai move back and basically refuse to battle. This guy is going to also move up as if to protect his leader. Now, because the Ronin charged first, I'm going to let them initiate the combat. So this Ronin here is paired off against this opponent. And let's just roll and see again. So this time it is a 6 versus a 3. We're going to pair this one off against these two. Although I think he only gets to attack one of them because he's not a legendary. Although he will get to defend twice. So in this one, it's a 5 versus a 5. And the other guy rolled, let's see what he rolls with him, a 5 versus a 3. So he tied one and beat the other. And then this guy, oh, he rolled a 2 versus a 5. All right, so nobody got any lucky outright kills. So we should be able to resolve these pretty well. So he won this battle by 3. Let's roll the d6. No 1. So he won that by 3. So we will roll the d20. We get a 14 plus a 1 because that's, you get 1 for every 2 over what they needed. So that would be a 15, which would be a 15 would be a arm wound. He can use a sword only as d6 for remainder of the game. They also suffer a -1. But now this guy is only rolling a d6. So we will take that off. This one they tied. And so I think if there's a tie, I don't think you re-roll. I think they just said neither one harms the other one. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. To initiate the attack, no rolls was necessary for each figure. A hit is scored on a modified 5 or better. No, that's the other rules. So in melee, it's opposed die rolls, adding charge for every. A tie results in no blow being landed by either side. So that one he didn't get a blow. This one, when he came at him and he defended himself, he beat him by 2. So we'll roll the d6. It's a 4, so he's not killed outright. The d20, that's a 19. Plus 1 is 20. Well, no, it was an 18 plus 1 is 19. Fatal wound, figure is dead. So this guy is dead. We have our first Ashigaru casualty. We have one Ashigaru that is wounded. And then I think this one actually lost. I think he rolled a 2. I had moved that. So he beat him by 3. Let's see about his d6 roll. He did not roll a 1. His d20 roll, he only rolled a 4 plus 1 would be 5. Grazed. So he loses an action next turn. Okay. So now that the first person has been killed, I think the samurai is going to get involved in the next turn. But we're not quite there yet. So I don't know if we need to do the morale again. Plus it really doesn't say anything about breaking away. Like if you win the combat, whether you can push them away or what you do next after you won the combat. Are they locked in combat? So yeah, it doesn't really say. So I'm just going to go right into the next turn. This guy actually is losing an action this turn, which that could be dangerous, although I guess he still gets to defend himself. This guy is going to attack again. He's going to attack again. The only difference now is this samurai is going to move up and attack him because he has gotten a kill. Matter of fact, the samurai is going to have him move away because that's the honorable thing. He's not going to double team him with an Ashigaru. So the samurai is going to move up and get the charge. The samurai is rolling a D12 versus a D10. He gets +1 for the charge. So the samurai is at an 8. He is at an 8. Nobody rolled their highest thing on their die. And I don't think there's any other melee modifiers. Let me see. They're both using katanas. Melee modifiers, not from the rear or from the side. Which basically samurai, and I think even Ronin, aren't allowed to even attack from the rear or from the side. You charge this turn, I gave him that. So they basically just, they fought to a standstill. Him and the samurai. This guy now is going to go at his opponent, and they are going to have a roll off. Nobody charged. Oh, he rolled a 1, and he rolled a 4. But matter of fact, he's rolling a D6, so I have to roll that over. So he still rolled a 4, but because he's wounded, that goes down to a 3. He still rolled a 1, and I don't think he gets any kind of modifier against the Ashigaru in general. Let me double check that. Melee modifiers. Longer weapon, long melee weapon, attacking over obstacle. None of that would apply. So this character has won the melee by not much, but we will roll the D20. Well, actually, that's a 5. Before we do that, we need to roll the D6. No 1. So he got a 5. If there's any modifiers to the D20, well, he gets a +1 because he beat his roll by 3. So you get 1 for every 2 over, which would make it a 6. So he takes a light wound and he loses his action next turn. And it says check for morale. I'm not going to do that right now. So then we're going to do this one. This guy has no action, but this guy is attacking him. So they are going to roll off against each other. Oh, he rolled a 10. He rolled a natural 10, and he rolled a natural 8. Wow. Wow. They both killed each other. They both literally killed each other. A natural 10 versus a natural 8. They both just killed each other. Wow. That was epic. That was epic. So we go into the next turn now. And the samurai is going to get his turn first. He is not going to back out now that he started this fight. So he will get his attack. 10 versus a 3. And he did not charge, so there's no modifier for that. 10 is 7 above 3. So let's see, first of all, if he auto kills. No 1 yet. So he gets +3 to this, which would be 9. So this guy has a leg wound. And he gets half movement for the rest of the turn. But I don't think their movement is going to make a difference in this game. All right, these guys are gone. Over here, these two are fighting now. And this guy actually loses an action, so he's going to attack. But he only has a D6 versus a D10. He rolled a 1 versus a 6. His 1 actually suffers a -1 because he's wounded. He takes a -1 and goes down to 5. But he still wins the combat. He rolls a D6. No 1. He rolls his D20. Just 13 plus another 1. 2, because he's up by 4. So that would be a 13 plus 4 is 17. So this guy has a chest wound, and he will die in D6 turns. I wonder, is that the one I wrote last game, or was that a different game? So he will die in 2 turns with the chest wound, plus he takes another wound, which I think that would kill him anyway, because Ashigaru, I think, can only take 2 wounds. I think it says 2 light samurai, ronin, and mongol can take 3 wounds. All other types may only take 2. So he did kill him, which is good because that will give this other guy somewhere to strike. His action thing can come off. He's no longer affected by that. We'll clear that out. Now, he can actually charge this guy, which he will do, because he's not going to double team the samurai. That's dishonorable. But he will get a charge for going in there. He has a wound. These 2 will fight. The samurai will go first. So we have a 6 versus an 8. And that, well, no, he rolls a 10, so that would not have been a natural kill. So 6 versus 8. He beat the samurai, but he is wounded. So this 8 becomes a 7. So he only beat him by 1, which is not any bonus. Let's see if he rolls a 1. No. See if he rolls on the D20. He rolls a 10. And a 10 is a leg wound. So the samurai now will suffer half movement. These 2 have a nice little battle going on here. The samurai will now suffer a half movement. Now, he should be allowed to get his action, which I'm assuming means he can now take his strike, which again is kind of unclarified in the rules, because that was the samurai strike. So let's do his strike, which I think I haven't even been doing that right in the game. So he now rolls an 8 versus a 7, but because he's wounded, this would go to 7, but he's now wounded, so that would go to 6. So he still wins again. And he rolled a 1. He finally rolled a 1 and he killed the samurai. These 2 here will now conclude their battle. So you have a D10 versus a D8. 5 versus 7. Because he's wounded, this would go down to a 4. And that means he wins. Let's roll his D6. He did not roll a 1. D20. He rolled a 9 plus 1 would be 10. So that is another leg wound and half movement for the rest of the game. So 1 more wound and he will be out of it. But I think with the samurai gone, this guy would probably make a morale check. Normally, I think you need a 9 for Ashigaru, but if we apply the modifiers, now they have something about losses exceed 25%, so that would add a plus 1. 50% would add a plus 2. And let's just see here. So he needs to roll a 9 or less. Oh no, wait. What is it for Ashigaru? I think theirs may be 7 or less. Let's see. For morale. Okay. So 9 or less for Ashigaru. So usually with a D8, you're always going to pass unless you have modifiers. In this case, though, he has a plus 2. So his 2 becomes a 4, but it's still less than 9. So he doesn't run. But this one, well, actually, I don't know if he would charge him because I don't know if he would double team him. It does say they won't attack from the rear. I think it says they won't attack from the side either. I'm gonna make sure I clarify that because I don't really think they're allowed to double team people like that. At least not the samurai, and not even the ronin actually. Let's see here. Yeah, we're almost done. So let's see. Modifiers. I remember reading the stuff. It's just I don't remember where I read it. The rules are like two different sections. Soft cover, quality dice, lines of sight, wounds, hierarchy, figures may attempt. Samurai Ronin will never attack a foe from side or rear unless the above roll has been passed, meaning they rolled their maximum, but they said that wouldn't apply in this case. So this would be a side attack, so he will not take part in that. These two have to fight this out on their own. 7 versus 6. He is wounded though, so he minuses 1 for every wound he has, which actually puts him now at a 5. So he actually wins this again. See if he can get the D6. 4, no. 10. And I think that is going to be his third wound, a leg wound. So this one guy right here has actually defeated a Ronin. And now he's earned the respect of this Ronin. And those two are going to square off. So he will move in first because he is a Ronin. He has a D10. He does have a wound as well. So I'm going to let this guy keep his lucky die. 8. Oh, that is a natural 8 versus a 7. Holy goodness. Oh, my goodness. I think he just killed that guy. Wow. But let's see. He did kill him because he rolled his highest number. But let's see if he took him out. He's got to get a 1. No, he didn't. So even if I rolled on the D20, that would be 16, which wouldn't be enough to kill him. I think at most it would be a head wound, no action for D6 turns. So, wow, that is kind of funny because I was actually going to call the game when he was left standing there by himself. But as you can see, he is actually now the last man standing. So this is the type of figure maybe in the next game would get promoted to a Ronin or a Samurai or something. But anyway, guys, I hope you like that battle. There's a lot more to the rules. Obviously, if you play the mass combat part of it. I just wanted to show you guys how the melee part of it works. I think it's kind of interesting. It's a little swingy. I mean, you can lose some of your best characters fairly quickly because there's a lot of ways you can die between the quality die roll, the D1 die roll, the accumulation of wounds. But, you know, I don't know. I think I kind of like it if you're really trying to play with a lot of figures. And that is one thing the author said, is that it's designed that you can play with a lot of figures fairly quickly. All right, guys, let me know if you're enjoying the series. Look forward to tomorrow. I want to try to get Pig Wars on the table, but I'm trying to find my playing cards. I need 2 packs of playing cards, so I may have to go to the dollar store. Take care. God bless. Hey guys, so I wanted to do a quick recap of my impression of these rules, Katana by Stephen Lawrence. First of all, with regards to the actual rule book, which is different than the rules, I would really have liked if maybe they had did a second edition and where they went through the rules and kind of clarified things a little more, and you know, just kind of maybe play tested it and kind of spotted some of the problems. So like the biggest things that I saw as problems in the game, and I mean maybe it's buried in the rules somewhere, but you know, if you just start from front to back, you just don't see where it's at. The biggest thing was I never saw where they determined who moved first. And I think that is probably the biggest omission I've ever seen in a set of rules, is where they don't even tell you who moves first, how you start the game. And so what I think happened in this game, because I seem to notice it a few times, is where the rules writer makes an assumption that we know what he knows. So I think, you know, there was an assumption when he was writing these rules that, well, he knew how to pick who started first, who moved first, and that somehow, you know, he took that for granted and never actually stated in the rules who gets to move first. Now, like I said, it may be in here somewhere, but it's not under movement, right? It doesn't say in movement the character with blank blank moves first, right? It doesn't even say what side moves first, even for the unit games. The other problem I had with the ruse was simply the fact that when you get the secondary set of ruse in the back, which he calls arrow cutter, katana, again, there's kind of this assumption that we kind of know what he knows, as in what ruse from the front are applicable to the back. So back here, he doesn't deal with morale at all. So I had no way of knowing if the same morale ruse and modifiers, which seemed real, they seemed common sense for a mass combat game, didn't make a lot of sense for the skirmish game. So for example, some of the morale modifiers was if your losses exceed 25%. So if you're playing a side with 4 guys each, if you lose 1 guy, then you're suffering this morale modifier. Unit is surrounded. Well, when you're playing individually, technically you can't be surrounded because samurai and ronin won't attack from the back or the sides. Each man in the unit that's killed. So basically we have these modifiers for the mass combat game, but we're not told if any of them apply in the skirmish game. And that would have been huge, because in a lot of these daimyo type of games, if your samurai leader is killed, the rest of the guys run off, or they have a massive modifier to keep fighting. I mean, I kind of made up a role, but there was nothing in there that says if, your leader is killed or if your samurai is killed, because this is assuming that you still have units on the table, and the samurai or the leader can't directly be targeted. So I thought that was a problem. I do like the way he did the wounds. I like kind of the staggered wound approach where there's a possibility of you being killed outright, though it's rare, only 1 in 6. And then there's a possibility of you being killed as a result of taking wounds. What I think might have been a little too iffy is I didn't like the rolling the highest number on your die, because I can tell you when you're dealing with dice like this, a D8, you have a 1 in 8 chance of rolling the highest number on your die. A D6, there's a 1 in 6 chance. So in some ways, the lower dice actually become more powerful then, right? If I'm rolling a D4 and you're rolling a D20, and the only way you can get an outright kill against me is if you roll 20, which is the highest number on your die. I can get an outright kill against you if I roll a 4, which means every 4 rolls, there's a chance that one of them is going to be an outright kill. You have to do 20 rolls if you're rolling a D20. And so I don't really think he thought about that, and he doesn't mention in here that, well, this doesn't apply, if the guy is a higher class than you. And see, what I would do with this rule is I would say a maximum natural roll on the quality die is an automatic kill if your opposing figure is the same status as you or the same hierarchy. So if 2 Ronin are fighting, then yes, you both got a 1 in 10 chance of getting that auto kill. If 2 Ashigaru, the same thing. But I don't think a peasant should have a natural die against the samurai just because he rolls a 4 and he has a 1 in 4 chance of doing it. So that is a big problem with these rules. And, I don't know how he addresses it. Because like I said, there's nothing in here that says that part of the rule doesn't apply to samurais or whatever. I mean, technically, even a legendary samurai. So if you had a legendary samurai who cannot be killed with wounds, I could basically put 4 peasants up against you or whatever with D6 and say 6 peasants. And I almost have a certainty that I'm going to kill you with one of those first strikes. Your whole samurai is going to go down to 6 peasants. And that's even more effective strategy than putting, 20 Ronin. Like this scenario he gets called, if I kill you, it will hurt. Well, this is 1 legendary samurai versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like 15 Ronin. Now, I don't know if he play tested that, but I can almost guarantee you, using this rule here, these 15 Ronin are going to kill this legendary samurai in the first round of combat. And I don't see here where it says he's immune to that. Now, it says here, legendary samurai always move last, will never attack a foe from the rear, have a D20 as their quality die, and where was the part about the wound says? So that was kind of funny. Legendary samurai can only be hit immediately if their opponent's quality die is 3 times that of the legendary samurai. Now, I don't know what that means 3 times, so I'm saying that means if he rolls a 5, you would need a 15, which I don't see how you can roll a 15 with a D10. The die roll is 3 times that of the legendary samurai. So, I mean, but then again, it doesn't say about the death roll. If the quality die is an automatic kill. Fighters other than legendary samurai may only score a hit on the figure they are facing. So I guess that wouldn't apply. So unlike the basic rules, the facing consider after modifiers, any roll which is higher than another roll is considered to have landed a blow. Consult the wound chart. A maximum natural roll on the quality die is an automatic kill on the opposing figure, even if his roll beats yours. In this case, you will also take a hit. Legendary samurai cannot die from wounds. Wounds still suffer the -1 penalty for all wounds acquired. So I don't know. There's like a lot of gaps in the rules. Just stuff that doesn't make sense. That stuff doesn't sound right. You know, where the rules almost either conflict themselves, or where the rules basically seem like he meant for them to apply one way, but that's not how he stated it when the rules were written. So I don't know. I mean, I like some things about the rules. This is the type of rule set that you'd almost have to make so many house rules and changes that why would you even play it? You know, just make up your own rules, right? And just use, maybe take a few mechanics out of here, and you might as well make up your own rules. And I think that's unfortunate. I have not done the mass combat game. I have a feeling that might play better. The mass combat game might play better. And, you know, I will think about that once I get some more of my samurai figures and things painted up. Okay, guys, so I just wanted to do that before I go. Take care. God bless.